Hey, it's Craig Syracusa, and welcome to another episode of Walk in Faith, the show where we go beyond the image and we discover who our guests really are. You might know them from TV, the big screen, or even the world of sports, but do we really know who they are as a person? Do we know what motivates them? Do we know what inspires them? Well, that's what we're here to find out. On this episode of Walk in Faith, actor David A.R. White, founder of Pure Flix, talks about his role in the new religious film God's Not Dead 3. Stay and walk with us. David, thank you so much. Last time we put together the interview, we had some difficulties with the snow, so thank you for making it to Brooklyn.
Thanks for having me.
But I really enjoyed the film. I watched it a second time. First time I liked it a lot. Second time I loved it. There were so many moments in that film, especially in the beginning. Like the line was, "A spark becomes a flame." Like that, I think about that a lot. And I wanted to ask you, what in your life, was there any sort of sparks or anything that happened in your life that sort of led to a flame, so to speak?
Wow, that's a deep question. You guys are
only the first.
Yeah, I know. Just diving in here. It's interesting. I mean, I'm from a little town outside of Dodge City, Kansas, and grew up as a Mennonite. My father was a Mennonite pastor, and so what was the spark that became a flame? I think my early sparks. Obviously, there's two sides in the Lord. There's one side, when I became a believer and a Christian when I was really young and growing up in that, but then also, I think I was in sophomore in high school, and I asked my librarian if I should, she said, "What do you want to do in life?" And the thing that I wanted to do was go in the entertainment industry, to be an actor and to start there and move in. And she said, "I think you should do it." And that was a little spark, because I had told my parents my freshman year of high school that I wanted to do this. And my father said, "Well, you don't know how to sing and you don't know how to dance, so you can't be an actor," right? He was from the old, before, when that's what the actors did, and that's what he understood, because we were Mennonites too, so we didn't see a lot of programming growing up. But that was the spark. I think that was the spark, that somebody telling me, you can do this, because I didn't tell anybody else until I got out of high school and was in Chicago at Moody Bible Institute.
It's amazing, because that you could have asked this, the librarian, she could have had a completely different response, and that could have affected sort of your life, you know, and it's amazing. That's why it's good to be an influencer, or really just take notice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for people's, and obviously, I wrote a book called Between Heaven and Hollywood, Chasing Your God-Given Dream. And I'm a big advocate in dreams, because I was the last person on the planet who probably should have gone into the entertainment industry. But somebody said, one thing there, and then also I recognized this thing that was inside of me, I couldn't get out of me, to pursue that and to follow those things that are inside of us.
I agree, and it's sort of like you have to sort of be in tune with what's going on, in society and in your daily life, because there are people that might approach you or speak to you, and then I try to think about, what is God, like, is this person there for a reason, like where I'm supposed to say something to them or encourage them? So you have to take notice of everybody, because you can have a negative effect on that person the same way you have a positive.
That's a tricky thing, because when you're talking to so many people, just randomly in life, but then also if I go out and speak, and then, there's a whole lot of people who come up to, they want to share their stories, or they want to share their vision or their dreams with you, and how do you respond?
It's difficult.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. Obviously, which is why I think so often we need to listen to the Lord and listen to God, and what is He trying to tell us? To speak into other people's lives.
And it's true, like in your character in the film, you play a pastor. And I have a lot of friends that are priests, and after church, I talk to them, and they always have to sort of be on, because somebody's approaching them the same way they approach you, and they're looking for words of encouragement, they're looking for, it could be anything, it could just be direction. And if they don't truly pay attention to that person, they could affect them in a negative way, and it's the same like your character. Now, in the film, what has changed from, say, when you filmed the first God's Not Dead to the third one? What's changed in your life? What's changed in society? Has anything changed at all?
Sure, that was 2012 we shot the first one. It came out in 2014, but I think that's always the thing about, what is that next film going to be? What's it supposed to be at the time? And for us, that was a tough thing. We didn't want to just make a third installment of this movie. Without it being for such a time as this right now. And obviously our time that we're living in is this dark social, political, divisive time where everybody's fighting, no one's listening, everybody's yelling. That's what this movie, at the heart of it, is, one of the themes is about how do you bring these two sides together that can't get along? We can look outside our windows, in politics and, just even in everyday life. People have a harder time uniting. Our country was built on different perspectives, but people coming together and uniting. And how do you do that? And I think that this movie hits on that. Ultimately, it's through love. Mm-hmm. Without love, all you have is just fighting.
What do you think? I mean, because I think love unites us. What do you think divides us? Like, what do you think? Do you think there's one underlying issue that sort of separates us all?
Selfishness, in one way, because you want to be right. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to be right, and no one ultimately wants to listen or understand. But communication is one of the first steps in doing. You got to sit down with people. You got to talk to people. And we live in this society where everything is on your phone, or you're on your iPad, or your computers, or Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these other social media outlets, and people don't know how to communicate. People have forgotten. Fortunately, we're older. We had to communicate because it was,
I know.
I know. But I worry about that for my kids. I want them to be able to communicate with, adults and other people.
One thing I think also fear is what divides us. I think it's fear. But social media, right? So in the film, you speak a lot about, or you show a lot of the, I don't even know, millennials, I don't even know what generation we're up to at this point. I'm so Generation X, Z, Y, but you show how the college kids, Adam and a lot of the main characters, how there's sort of they have a difficulty identifying with faith, and they have a lot of doubt. And I think one of the reasons, too, is also social media. Like, a lot of the kids today, they want instant gratification, right? And we have that, too, as adults, right? We look in the morning, it becomes like a drug. How many people like our photo? We become insecure, so we want that instant gratification.
Oh, I should be checking that right now.
Yeah, exactly. People like the photo. But then what happens is when we communicate with God, right? Or we ask God, or we pray, He doesn't respond like that. Like
instantly, yeah.
So we're so used to that world. So our kids are going to be used to that. So when we ask God to show us a sign, which I think is a whole other story, but God answered this prayer, and it takes a little bit longer, we start to doubt. And I don't think the kids, we have to explain to them that God, it's His own time. It's not going to happen the minute you ask for something. Yeah. And I think that's what sort of, one of the things that sort of affects, the Generation Y identifying with faith.
Yeah, there's, God likes to put us in a waiting room, it seems, more and more, to stretch us, to teach us, right? That faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not yet seen. We have it. We have a 5, 8, and a 12-year-old. How do we teach our kids that it's not instant gratification? You have to wait.
In the film, too, which I really liked the scene, not that I liked the scene, but the question was about sacrifice. Like, you were willing to sacrifice your own life for Jude, right? For your friend.
Yeah.
And I think about that myself. Like, I think about that a lot. I said, for my family, that's one thing, but for a friend or for a stranger, would you have enough strength as your character to go into a burning building and save someone and risk your own life? What was the emotional preparation like? Do you think you're strong enough, just like your character was?
Yeah, I think it goes in ebbs and flows, Some days we're stronger than other days. Some days we're beaten down. And I think that's why also, telling it, we kind of knew that this third movie was going to be around Reverend Dave and his struggles. Like, that's something that we find interesting, is that a pastor is a man of God, or a reverend, or a priest, or, we hold them up to a certain standard. They're almost above being human in a way. But they're not. They're human beings, And they just answered a call by God to go do whatever it was that they felt, He put on their hearts. But they're everyday people, And if they go through struggles, my dad was a pastor, so I grew up in the church seeing all kinds of stuff. People are people, whether they're saved or unsaved or, whatever they believe, that they're flawed individuals. I'm a flawed individual. We're all, flawed. How do you, in the first two movies, there was a saying, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. It's so easy to say, well, God's certainly good to the pastor, or we can look to the left and say, well, God's good to that guy over there, or that girl, or that person over there. But the important thing is stay on your path, because God has a purpose and a plan for each and every one of our lives. And what we have to do is just wait. Puts us in that waiting room, wants to stretch us, to teach us. That verse that says, be still and know that I am God. Be still. I have to tell myself all the time, be still, David. Just stop, wait.
All right. And in the film, there was like you said, there were parts where you sort of doubt your faith and the relationship with your brother, which I think everyone can sort of relate to. But in your own life, like you said, sometimes not that you doubt faith, but have you ever had times in your life, opening Pure Flix couldn't have been easy by any means. Like, were there times where you started to question, say, God, is this right for me? Did that ever happen to you?
Oh, totally, yeah. I find it interesting in the movie, right? So here you have a pastor, and of course his brother, he needs his older brother, who happens to do this eminent domain law, who's the perfect guy for this fight. How does God partner these two people? He happens to be an atheist. So God uses the most unorthodox, ways.
That relationship was like,
it's like
anxiety.
How do you get a pastor and a brother who don't get along and an atheist now thrown together to conquer David versus Goliath, this bigger than them thing. And how do they work together? It's complicated. Nothing's simple in life. It's very complicated.
That relationship is interesting too. And then when he says about how he justifies his action, you don't need to care for what you're fighting for. I'm just paraphrasing it, and it was interesting. But that relationship from the beginning, like the resentment, the turmoil, it gave me so much anxiety. I guess I was thinking about my own life and my relationship with my brother, and I was like, well, this sort of, it touched on something, especially within me. But I like how you sort of resolved the relationship, and how he finally, came clean and said, he was sort of discovering his own faith.
You didn't take the time to understand what I was going through. I was trying to sort out my own faith.
Do you think, when the movie ends, if there was a part 4, does he find God at some point? Sort of open-ended.
I think that's kind of what we left it a little bit open-ended, because in these movies, our goal is not to hit somebody over the head with, our belief, which is part of the problem in our society. And we want to be right? Out of fear, a lot of times it's out of our own fear of, if I entertain, or I'm even open to someone else's ideas or their perspective, then I'll be wrong. And so we go from a very authentic, organic, real situation of, family members that don't get along in a very messy situation, and how do you go forward with that? And at the end, I think he comes around. Certainly, he's looking at that Bible that his parents gave him, even though he doesn't want to believe in it. I think he secretly believes in it.
And then you said to him, was it that he made Christianity cool, right? Was that you said to him? And that's something I always think about too. When I was a kid, I lived in a predominantly Catholic neighborhood, and we used to, Ash Wednesday, we'd wear the ashes, and we were proud. And then over time, like I've noticed even now in society, like if I go to the city and I have ashes on, sometimes I'm a little self-conscious. Like a lot of us are afraid to express our faith, right? To let people know that we believe in God. And it's changed a lot. The only time you really see people express their faith are holidays, right? When society accepts it and says, you know what, today's okay for you to let people know you believe and you love Jesus Christ. But the rest of the year, we're always afraid, right? Because we might offend people. But what's changed? Like when you were a kid, obviously it was probably similar to when I was a kid. What's changed in the past 10 years or 15 years?
Well, more and more, this whole politically correct thing has changed and come in to where you feel like you don't want to step outside. If you're open with your beliefs, or you're open, if you do not fit into this exact cutout that society has put on us, then there's something wrong with you. And all of a sudden, I think even through the fear of what they've ingrained, that it's become it's become flipped in a way. You're now the unpopular one. You're now, and probably before, I think it used to be swayed the other way.
Yeah.
But again, that's that's hopefully what God's Not Dead, a light in darkness. Well, then how do we make that first step toward unity? How can one help where we're at in society, bring unity, bring love? Well, ultimately, I think somebody has to take the first step. Somebody has to take that first step out. I believe that if people of faith can't even do that, then it's not going to happen.
I mean, you're creating a lot of films that put out that message. I mean, you could easily just create secular films, and it'd be a lot easier. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
in a lot of ways it would be.
Yeah, I mean, when I tell people I work in the faith-based world, they're like, oh, you're like
Why do you do that?
Yeah, they're like, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, because it's a lot easier. You could succeed just creating, straight to DVD films, or B-rated films, or horror films, or action-packed. But I mean, you obviously got a different plan for your life. How did you know that this was right for you? To move into this direction. What do you think what's next for you? Like, what do you think the ultimate purpose is? And it's not just to create films, right? It's got to be more than that, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that it changes. It changes daily. It's not a simple thing. I grew up in a church, and when I came to Hollywood, I was 19, got on a hit television show with Burt Reynolds. From that, though, I got cast in Christian movies, and I really thought I'd do one or two and be done, but I kept getting more of them, and I was okay with it because ultimately, growing up at the church, there were never Christian movies. I mean, we had like one movie every year that would come out of the Billy Graham organization. That was it. Only person making movies. And you'd show them in the church, projector would eat the film, sound wouldn't work, never finished the actual movie. As in the 90s, it was totally uncool to make faith films. And I wanted to, growing up in that, change that stigma of what a Christian movie would be. I didn't really believe that I'd be the pioneer of it or one of the pioneers, but I know, that's what the Lord kind of put me in that lane to do. Not to say that I love family films. I love all films that inspire and uplift that human spirit. So they don't have to be Christian films or faith films. But for right now, that's the lane that I'm in. Now we're doing, Pure Flix is we're working on some big mainstream movies, but at the heart, they still have that positive, uplifting hope message. And that's what we want to, keep doing. But, will I go do an action movie or will I go do something else? Who knows? Sure. I'm sure I will at some point, Pureflix.com is growing, and that's been a fun thing. I've been doing sitcoms and...
you had, was it Malibu Dan, right?
Malibu Dan, the family man, yeah.
How'd you get cast in that? Did you know anyone? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, here are a lot of the films and the TV shows.
Well, I did that.
Is it budgetary reasons,
no,
or
I created it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so with Tommy Blaze, who had helped me with the book, And so I just wanted to get back to sitcoms. I hadn't done it in a long time, and I love
Sounds like a lot of fun.
humor. Oh, it was so much fun. Do you think that I'm hip? Cool, and with it.
What's bringing all this on?
The station is trying to appeal to a younger demographic, and there's this guy hanging around, and he's got me worried.
Yeah, that could be bad.
In fact, Malibu Dan, that has been one of the best things I worked on, the least stressful thing, in 20 years. And partially because I just had all my friends there.
That's great.
Which is what I learned from Burt Reynolds, when I was 19 years old and I came on that set, and I moved around a bit as a kid, as a pastor's kid, from church to church, parish to parish. And I sat around, and here's Burt Reynolds with all of these, 12 regulars on this show. Hal Holbrook, Ozzie Davis, Ruby Dee, Elizabeth Ashley, Charles Durning, Mary Lou Henner, Dom DeLuise, all legends. Then he'd have these John Ritter, Billy Bob Thornton, Kenny Rogers. he had just the plethora of everybody at that time in the 90s. They were a little bit over past their prime, but they had all won Oscars, Emmys, or Tonys.
Wow.
And here I am sitting around a room as a kid, looking at 19 years old from a farm, a wheat farm. How in the world am I surrounded by these folks?
Amazing.
Amazing. But I thought that was the thing that I think I took most from Evening Shade, is that I want to work with my friends like Burt Reynolds has done for 30-some years. And I've been doing it. Malibu Dan is a perfect example. Everybody on there I've worked with Almost. And there's every now and then there's a new person that comes in. Try to throw them
Yeah,
out.
right, because it's hard to get into that circle. I've been poking my head. I'm like, how do we get into the circle?
But it's a little bit hard. Yeah, Adam Sandler does the same thing.
I was about to
Like,
say,
there's a
he has
whole bunch of
all
people
his
that-
own friends.
Yeah, all his.
A lot of them do that. I mean, because you want to work with your friends. Like everybody here we're friends. I know them for 15 years.
Yeah,
but
well, you don't like that person over there, but
Oh, I like her a lot, but so
Not you.
I can't say Evan. No, so you want to work with your friends because then it's really not like work. You know, you really enjoy it. You're partnered with Kevin, right?
I'm not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
But
Kevin
we
was.
used to. Kevin Downs used to be my
Yeah, I
partner.
just saw he just did a deal with Lionsgate.
He did. And Kevin Downs is on, I am partnering with Kevin Downs on Malibu Dan.
Oh, okay.
We did that
Yeah, when
together.
I saw that article, I said, wow. But now, okay, let's say Lionsgate or Fox or any of these networks. Now, you own Pure Flix, so you could sort of decide and you can be as accurate as you want to be or should be in terms of, biblical stories. But now, when you work with a Lionsgate or any of these big films, do you have to sort of alter sort of the truth? Do you have to justify your actions? Like, can you still stay true to the Bible and to Jesus' teachings, or do you need to, broaden the horizons to, sort of attract a secular audience?
Well, for us, we've been able to. People always say, well, how hard is it to be in Hollywood? And, are you feeling like, do you have to compromise your values or whatever? For me, I haven't found it to be that difficult because we run our own studio, which I think is what God wanted me to do in the first place. Not just me. There's my business partners started it. Michael Scott, Russell Wolf, Elizabeth Travis. We started this company years back in 2005. There's a freedom in now Hollywood actually they put their movies through our distribution entity.
That's great.
Sometimes, so. Like on the sequel to Unbroken is coming out. We did that with Universal, actually.
I'm actually doing the interview. I'm reading the book now.
Oh, correct.
Great film. It was Billy Graham's nephew,
Will,
right?
yeah.
That's a great story.
And so there's different partnerships, but no, I think we'll be true. I think we're going to just stay true to what we believe, and that's, otherwise we're not interested in,
You're right.
in partnering on that side.
Because sooner or later, once you just give in a little bit, and then sooner or later you look back 5 years and you go, what happened?
It's a tricky thing, though, on pureflix.com. We've always had, a little bit, because there's over 10,000 titles on there.
Wow.
People are, consuming that kind of content. That streaming thing is what has our, I think this is where our culture has been moving, because they want it instantly.
They don't want to wait for a television show.
Yeah, exactly. I want this now. But what do you put on there? And you guys, I'm sure, have this on your network too. Is that how far can you move over to the one side? You don't want to. You like a lot of things about that, but there's some stuff you don't like about it, and
Right.
where is that balance?
We do a lot of classic films now, a lot of classic TV shows.
Oh, great, yeah.
We repurpose, and we how do you find faith in Gilligan's Island? So we have Dan Roebuck, who
That's awesome.
comes and he talks about classic films, because we want to try to engage both
That's
sides.
pretty cool.
So now, what's next for Pure Flix? What's your subscription base? How many people do you have currently sort of signed on to?
Well, it's
Pure
it's
Flix?
been growing exponentially, and what I found is that it's so much bigger than who I am, than the people who started this little thing. We gave it to the Lord. What I found in life is what is the secret of success? When I met Leslie Nielsen in a bank the first day in Los Angeles, and I asked him that question. Naked Gun and Airplane fans out there,
Yes.
you would know who Leslie Nielsen, Sir Leslie Nielsen, is. What is that? He said, perseverance. Persevere, kid, because your career will go up, down, persevere. And he had an unbelievable career as I looked back and found, he was a dramatic actor
Oh, I didn't
for
know that.
years. Yeah, super famous for that. And then all of a sudden he became obsolete, and he recreated his career back again with the whole comedies.
Oh, Naked Gun was great. Airplane.
Yeah, all those classics, right?
great.
But then the other thing is for me, I let go of what I wanted for myself. And I think that's in society and culture. How do we get along with people? Is that we let go of what we want for ourselves and be open to where God is leading you to go. And then in the process, all kinds of things come in, you know. And we have so many incredible people that work with us on a daily basis. There's no way that we could do what we do without them and their minds and their hearts, that where God's leading them. And so Pure Flix right now is, you know, obviously we do 6 to 8 theatricals a year. We're in 120 countries around the world. It's exciting. I just got back from Brazil, actually. They're taking this movie out theatrically at the end of the month. Yeah, you know, we're in South Korea, you know,
it's amazing.
In the theaters there and all over the place. But then pureflix.com has just been this thing, this little, you know, thing that we felt like we were supposed to do, and it's been just moving. And there's 16 million hours consumed between the month of January and July.
Wow.
16 million, which means that people are watching that as opposed to the other SVOD streaming services, Netflix, HBO, Showtime, like the stuff where it's not really family
No, not at all.
/ inspirational for your heart, place where you probably should be. A lot of it's, you know, this harsh, you know, stuff that you know, we don't need more of. We need more heart in this world. We need more inspiration. We need more love. All we need is
love. Beatles.
Dun,
Just
dun,
two
dun,
other
dun.
questions now, and you mentioned it too. You said the second thing is sort of, and I believe following God's plan, right? So God places something in our hearts, right? And first of all, we have to determine and distinguish God's voice from our own.
Yeah.
Because if you follow that path and you follow the path of money, fame, insecurities, whatever it is, the doors won't open. The doors will always, they're squeaky. But when you follow, like you said, if you take it off yourself and you do something for the Lord, for your faith, when it's not about you, it always works.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
I love that quote. I think it's from Zig Ziglar. It says, "Don't follow your pension, follow your passion." What is your passion? What is the passion that is inside of you and me, each and every one of us?
You're right.
And with that, it will lead you, I think, to why you were designed and were here in the first place.
I agree. It's
Not
listening.
simple.
No.
Doesn't happen overnight. Don't go, well, I had a passion to have this thing on Wednesday, and now it's Thursday, and I'm going to throw in the towel. Forget it all.
It doesn't. It takes a long time. And you'll know too, and if it's really your passion, you'll never give up. You know,
let it
you
go.
won't. Yeah, you won't, because it's going to
Bothers me.
constantly burn, and this burning sensation. What's next now? God's Not Dead. It's being released today on the 21st.
Yeah, everywhere, in stores everywhere. All kinds of stuff on the DVD, stuff from Rice Brooks and apologetics, and you know, we look at the college campus in this movie as well as, you know, with all the other folks, and I love this movie too. Tatum O'Neal, John Corbett, Ted McGinley, our cast. Shane Harper came back from the first one. Got a whole new group of young students that are in this movie, and the coolest thing that not many people know. Actually, there's two cool things.
Oh, then the Newsies are in it, right?
Newsboys are in it.
Newsboys,
Super
sorry.
cool. But the Newsboys re-recorded their God's Not Dead song with Kirk Franklin,
Okay.
which is awesome. And you get that toward the end of the movie.
That's at the end, the credits, right?
Yeah, I
heard
love that redo of that.
And you have
And then-
Sammy Rodriguez in the film too, right?
Yeah.
Pastor?
And then the other thing is Dr. Cissy Houston, which is Whitney Houston's mother,
Oh, wow.
sings in the movie. She started, you know, she taught her daughter how to sing
Is she in the scene in the church?
in the church. That's
Okay.
her singing.
Okay.
Love it.
It's a great film. I really, like I said, any film that you have, we're always willing. I'm always willing to help and endorse it. So
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
you guys are great.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much.
Yeah.
God bless.
Pleasure. You too.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, bro.
Appreciate it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. And always remember, we have the ability to inspire and evangelize through our words and actions. Till next time, thanks for walking with us.